The truth?
Oh, I'm all ears.
Okay. The truth.
I always tell the truth, even when I lie.
Why do you find it so hard to believe?
Why do you find it so easy?
It's never been easy.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth.
All I'm offering is the truth. Nothing more.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Truthful Talk. I am your host, Marco D. George, and we're here again to do our thing. Joined with me, as always, is the amazingly talented Natalie Bulaich.
Oh, thank you, Marco. Hello,
Nat.
hello. Hi, it's good to be here.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
Very much.
And we have back on the show with us two generally funny and interesting people.
What?
You hear that? You hear that, man?
Welcome back, Josh and Faheem.
Generally.
Welcome back to the show.
All the time.
Oh, thank you so much for having us.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. We had so much.
Are you sure about that?
I'm so happy.
Now, it's funny because I think, Josh, your hair is now, is it almost as long as mine?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Yeah.
I think the next time I get mine trimmed, yours is going to
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah.
surpass.
Are you going to grow it longer?
You know, however long Jesus had it.
Okay.
So it depends on which reference to that.
Exactly.
Right.
It depends on what
Got it.
photo I pass
All
by.
right.
And,
Fair enough.
No, I'm planning on cutting it maybe like an inch or something just to.
Keep it healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks great.
It does. It looks
Yeah.
amazing.
It does.
Thank you.
I can't
Yeah.
lie.
I was always jealous of how well it just kind of flowed and sat down. Like if you saw mine, I had to wear a hat before the show.
This
to
is true.
It's 100% true. I had to wear this same baseball cap to flatten it so that it didn't do the thing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But
Well,
you have beautiful hair as well.
Well, thank you.
I was lucky in that I had an entire show where it was in the awkward phase of growth. And it worked for the show.
Oh, okay.
You're right.
Second Night Gracies.
Yeah.
That was my awkward phase. And after that,
That was
Oh
the
yeah,
awkward phase.
that's right. Yeah.
Use it.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
it was interesting in the show, Josh, you had shorter hair. Bobby had longer hair.
Longer hair. Yeah.
And then afterwards,
Yeah.
Mhm.
It kind of shifted a little bit.
But if you look at later recordings of the runs, you see it starts to get a little longer, and it's when the ends start flipping up a little bit.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And started getting into that phase where normally I would cut it short, but
Yep.
then we had like 15, 20 more shows to do. So
Right. I remember Sam cut it though at one point.
she's
She's like, it's in your
trimmed it?
eyes.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
right. Yeah, we had
the
Merritt
trim,
come
yeah.
in and get it on my
It was
face. Yeah.
perfect. Oh, it was perfect.
Yeah.
You're right. Awkward. Perfect. Jerry.
Like me.
It was wonderful.
There you go.
Yeah.
You're right. Generally funny.
So we were sitting around having a conversation. Well, that's that's my generally funny.
Yeah.
Is that not a good title?
Yeah.
I think it is.
Is
I'm
that-
going to write
is
it
that
down.
That's us.
I can see the future.
So we were sitting around talking about different things, and Nat, I think you were like, "Why are we not recording this?"
I know. Yeah.
And so what is it that?
Yeah.
So you guide us, Nat.
Okay.
Where are we going?
All right. So this always comes up for actors, and I think because we all go through it. So the question is, or the topic of the day is, what work for an actor is worth doing, and how do I navigate it starting out? So I'd like to begin this topic with this. Okay, I messed it up already, but that's what I'm going for.
I'm like, what is this voice you're doing?
Yes,
over
I
there?
know.
It's
This
kind of
really-
sultry. It's
Right.
kind
That's
of.
what I was just
I should have had my glasses on that I don't.
It almost went ASMR a little bit.
a little bit, right?
What work is worth
Doing
doing?
a real breathy voice.
because it's important.
It's like, keep doing that. It's fun.
Oh.
I think it's a really good topic.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so
So let's go.
you're saying 4 actors that are not actors that are established.
No, because you know
Right,
they
that's
get
different.
to choose the things that come their way. You know, their agents are saying you should take this. Like, no, I want to do this, and it's crazy. It's not
Okay,
fair.
but 4 actors just starting out, either just learning the craft.
starting out.
And what do we do? Okay,
What do we do?
so
Because we were talking about this.
yeah,
So I'm looking over to Josh, but I I've heard before. This is where and Josh and I have actually had this conversation before. Like, I've heard very famous actresses be asked this question, and it's Jessica Chastain that I remember. She says, "What would you tell a beginning actress?" And then she goes, "I would tell them to do whatever comes your way. Don't say no," is what she said. Say yes to every project that you're offered. And so we just explored that topic. So yeah, I'd like to figure out what it is that you guys think about that.
Yeah. I mean, you know where I stand on this.
Yeah. Where do you stand?
I'm the same thing. I believe that every actor starting out should act in absolutely everything they possibly can, because the classroom is only a place to learn the tools, but you need a place to execute the tools. Mm-hmm. And I have so many students that say, well, I was going to do that student film, but I didn't like the script, so I decided not to. Mm-hmm. I'm like, your like of the script should be the least concern of whether you take the role or not. Mm-hmm. You take every role you possibly can, as long as it fits in with your safety and your guidelines of who you are as an individual, but don't worry about the script. First of all, in film, you have no way of telling whether something's going to be good or not. You cannot evaluate a film from its script. Mm-hmm. Too many times, big films that we now know as like iconic films were horrible on the page. Star Wars, bad film on the page. Nobody really wanted to do it outside of the beginning actors coming in. You know, Mark Hamill was a beginning actor. Carrie Fisher was a young actor. Right? You had these beginning things. Harrison Ford did it as a favor. Sir Alec Guinness did not want to be doing this. I'm not even sure why he did. I never even found why did he do it if he didn't want to be doing it. I think it was his just way of doing American film. But it was interesting that, you know, of course, now Star Wars is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Mm-hmm. But on the page, it wasn't good. But then it executed into something that was great, or at least iconic. And we see that over and over and over, where you just don't know. And then on the other end of it, you can read something. It's like, this is an amazing script, but it's executed poorly. And it's like, oh, that was bad.
A lot of it is in the execution, right?
A lot of it's in the execution.
That's an interesting question. Like, what makes a good script not work and what makes a bad script work? And I think a lot of it is the passion in the project and the execution, as you said. Yeah. So yes, I absolutely, especially when you're first starting out, I'd agree with the take anything that comes your way, because you need to learn what doesn't work, what works. Though I do think, and maybe unpopularly, at a certain point in your sort of career and education, not like when you're well established or anything, but there's a point where you have to be able to recognize, not necessarily just based on the script, you know, because I have read scripts and I'm like, that's harsh, or rough, but yeah, maybe the passion behind the project, the collaborative nature, we can do something with it. But I do think you need to be able to recognize as an actor the passion behind the project. What's the intention?
I think that's a really good point. And yeah, I think it goes into what we're both saying, is that in order to be able to recognize those things,
you have to do it.
You have to do the bad ones.
Right.
You have to be involved in enough. And, you know,
to have the maturity to ask that question in the future about those intentions to the director or things like that you wouldn't necessarily do, because sometimes one might think they're overstepping their boundaries as the actor,
right,
instead of, you know, interviewing the director to say like, oh, well, I want to see if I want to work with this person, and what is your vision? What is your theme? Are these things that you would consider overstepping a boundary as an actor, or do you find it actually that they're just inquisitive and they're an actor asking that is actually a form of kind of maturity?
It depends on what they ask and how they're being, but yeah, a part of casting is making sure we get along with each other. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't want to work with an actor as a director. I don't want to work with an actor that doesn't like me, not personally, but there needs to be a respect and a trust, because otherwise the actor won't do what I'm asking them to do. Mm-hmm. So we have to have a mutual respect for each other. And as an actor, I want the same thing. I want to work with a director who is, like you're saying, Josh, is passionate, who has a vision for the project, really understands what they're going to be doing, storytelling, is in line with what I want to do as an actor. But we're at different stages, meaning, you're not a beginning actor at this point. So I can understand you do get to a point where it's like, you know what, I'm no longer going to do commercials, or I'm no longer going to do certain projects that the director's not who I want them to be, the person I want them to be. Because without saying anything, you were you were recently involved in a project where, in hindsight, it was like, well, the warning signs were there.
Right. And, and it just depends on your definition of beginning actor. I would still call myself a beginning actor. I've only been acting for 5 years. And I do think there comes a point where you do need to start trusting your instincts on projects and be like, is this going to help me grow? Is the passion in the project because you're right, there are not necessarily any bad roles, and you shouldn't not take a role simply because you don't think you can do it, because then you're limiting yourself in a challenge. But I am starting to recognize projects where I'm like, well, they're just doing this for a grade. They're not really into it. Sometimes you can even tell from the writing, and while there's not necessarily, a bad script like Star Wars can turn into something, you can tell, I think, at some point when things were written not with any sort of drive or passion behind it. It was just something to put on a page.
I see that. I mean, I understand that point of view. And I've had that experience before doing, let's say, a play with the cast and the director, just horrible. So I remember having growing pains because for months afterwards, I still have this little thing that, like, son of a, oh my God, why did I waste my time with that?
Right.
But it's just, it's kind of it was a learning lesson in regards to who are the people that I want to be around with, that I do appreciate. So when I was here at Theater at the Edge, I'm like, oh, okay, this is what a healthy thing looks like. So it's almost when you explore certain avenues, I find that in theater and, let's say film, I find that I learn so much how to do the technical side. Where's my mark? Did I hit it? Did I walk too fast? Was I too quick with my words because the camera couldn't catch me? Like they're tiny, tiny things that I pick up myself.
Right.
Am I looking down too much? Am I blinking, during my monologue? And we have had classes here that do show that, but to be able to explore that on your own, and where do you stand under the pressure of the lights without your professor, your teacher there guiding you through it, it becomes, I think, a solid way to solidify, it becomes a way to solidify your craft, to have it become second nature, so that each one, that's how I see it, each one becomes better and better for me. And for me, there's no way for me to explore that outside of saying yes. But it took me a long time to say yes to just anything. And now I'm like, let's go. Because I've fallen in love with the process of learning and kind of like, okay, not this time, but next time. And then getting to see the final product. And sometimes it can be production or sound. And one I just did, my husband was like, why did they put you in that outfit, Natalia? You look, whatever it is. Yeah. My collar was up. I was supposed to be playing like a very government official, and someone didn't even have the wherewithal to check me out in regards to. So there's so many little things that it's just like, it gives me more of a responsibility for my own, what I'm bringing to the film or my part in the film.
So it's, to me, I think we have to do both. Starting out, I would tell an actor or student actor that do everything you can, but I also try to train to make sure you keep yourself safe in that, meaning don't let someone disrespect you, don't let someone treat you poorly, because we have to learn how to navigate that. But I do think it's important to work with some of these directors that treat you poorly so we understand what that is. Otherwise, it's just in theory. Like you now know who you don't want to work with, or type of directors you don't want to work with. That's important.
Right.
But you have this experiential type of thing to say, oh, I did that. I had a bad experience. I don't want to go back there.
And for example, if that director were to come back to me and say, I want to work on this project, that'd be an example of a project that I'd say no to.
Yeah.
Just because of the experience that I had.
Or possibly what to look for in a director in the future.
Right.
Maybe what to ask or
Mhm.
not to ask. Like one of the questions I ask when someone asks me, do I want to do a film is who's your DP and what camera are you shooting on? Seems very technical, but I know the answers to those questions gives me a lot of information.
That's wonderful.
If they don't know who their DP is or they don't know what camera they're shooting on, I'm like, okay, so you haven't really gone and thought this out yet. You're not that far along in this. I don't know if I want to do this, if I don't know if it's going to look good, if I don't know if it's going to sound good. I need to know what those things are. And for me at this point, it just has come down to, I just don't have time. Like I have to really decide where I'm putting time because whatever I spend my time on, I'm taking my time away from something else. So
Right. Time is our most valuable asset.
It's the most valuable
As actors.
asset.
Sure.
So, but as a beginning actor, I always say, well, listen, you should be working on something creatively. If you're not working on something, then say yes. Background work, absolutely. Unless it's going to conflict with something, right? Don't do background work if it's going to conflict with class, or don't take an extra role if it's going to conflict with another project you can do. But if you're not working on anything, do everything. Be an extra every time you can. Learn what it's like to be on set. Do every commercial you can. Go to every audition you can, just to get that experience of working with a diverse group of people. Because we have to learn how to work with so many people, and most of them, unfortunately, most of the people we work with are not going to be the ones that we necessarily want to work with. Meaning we're going to have to learn how to adjust and fit in with people we wouldn't normally hang out with.
Right.
Yeah. I would love to say that every project you're going to work on is you're going to be the best of friends with everyone. No, that's more of a rarity to happen, to get along with everyone and to be longtime friends. I wish it was more often than that.
Yeah.
What do you think, Faheem? You haven't said much about that.
Yeah, no, I think I'm right in line with everything that's been said here. I think just from my experience, right? When I started out here, I was auditioning for just about anything and everything that seemed like it was a match that I could audition for. And then through time, you continue to audition for anything you can because you want to work on the auditioning process for yourself. Again, there's always something to get from every part in it. In the ideal sense, if there's an opportunity to work on a project with people or with people or people are asking or requesting, that's definitely something. When someone asks me to do something, that's a rare. It's not every. Marco asks us to do a project. I'm going to find the time to do that project, right? That there's no question.
You know it's going to be quality. You enjoy working with it. Like
all
it's
of
a
those
professional.
things, yeah. And I think the only other thing that I think about is when you're putting yourself out there, there's no guarantee you're going to get any part, right? We know auditions, it's a numbers game, right? You got to do as much as you can. Be mindful of it too. If you've got a project and you're auditioning for something that's going to conflict, be mindful of all of that, because you also, that's what gets remembered by people that you're working with. If you're one of those that, oh, I can't do that because of my schedule. One thing is, once you get to the project, commit to it.
Right.
That's it. If you're working on something and there's another project that you can audition for, but you're in the middle of a project and there's going to be a conflict there, that's my opinion. Focus on what you've already been cast for and that you're part of. And you have to, even if something comes up, you're like, oh man, I wish I could have auditioned for that. Trust the timing of your life. There will be another project that you can audition for. But I think that's my thing, is once you get something, you got to commit to it. And that's where, don't try to build projects on top of each other. Oh, well, I can here and I can be there, but I have to leave here at 5 because I got another project.
Yeah.
That's where you don't represent yourself well.
Right.
And that's my only thing when it comes to what you should work on.
Do one thing. Do it
one
well.
thing and do it well.
Commit. Capital C.
Yeah.
Yeah. Put as much time and effort as you can into that one project. It's the only way we grow is to see how far can we take the art.
Yeah. 100%.
If we're doing 3 different things at once,
yeah,
we're not doing any of them fully.
No, and I think it goes back to what you said too. It's don't lose yourself in the process too. If there's something, and I think this is okay. There's something that a project comes up, and it's just something you innately. There's something in your inner being that doesn't agree with what this project is about. You know, you gotta do what's right for you, not to put yourself in a dangerous spot where you're just conflicting with yourself.
Yeah.
But as it relates to doing projects that you don't think you can live up to, I mean, that is not the. You can always give it everything you have. But those are, yeah. Generally, I'm not going to take on something that is in conflict with just me as a human being. I don't love the story. Like, you're representing something I genuinely don't believe in. That's where I take a step back and say, well, what am I?
Yeah, right. If morally or ethically you don't like the theme of the story, then sure, then you turn that down.
Yeah.
Absolutely, you don't have to do that. But I would actually say though, on plot, don't allow the plot to allow you to decide whether to do it or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because most film scripts on the page, the plot is not good.
There's that.
It's just so hard to put it, because a film script, the way it's formatted, it's hard to really.
Sure.
Yeah, we don't really know what the vision's going to be of the director and what it's going to end up looking like and how it's going to be edited.
Yeah.
They're just words on a page. It's a little easier, I think, in theater to be able to take a theater play and visualize what it is.
Yeah.
Than it is in film.
No,
so for
100%.
film, I say just do anything you can, even if it's the dumbest thing in the world.
100%.
But you're right. Morally, no. I mean, because you won't give 100% if you don't believe in it.
Yeah, and that's I think that's also few and far between. You really got to believe that there's something there that you don't want to do. Truthfully, all of these projects, there's something to be gained for the actor out of it, whether it's the role, the exploration of the role, or just working with different individuals.
Right.
It's always, those are the experiences you need to then grow, right? So,
to me, in the casting process, as an actor, we are auditioning the project. Like, they're auditioning us as far as can we fit into the project, but I think we have to be looking at, because I always say in independent films, especially, if I get a bad feeling, a year or two ago, I don't know, time. What is time?
What is time?
But it was some time ago. Someone came to me and it was a feature film and it was independent. And initially I had signed on to it. I said, okay, I like this script, right? And was it a good script? I don't know. It was a script, but it was an interesting concept. And I was like, all right, this is cool. And it was a cool character. And I was like, all right, I want to do it. During the pre-production process, though, I didn't like one of the main producers. And I had this really, like, red flags were popping up with this producer. And it was enough to say, no, I'm done. And I bowed out of the project really early on. But I saw the red flags that were like, no, I know where they go. But the only reason I know where they go is because I've had so much experience with knowing where they go. That was a reason where, from a producer, not even the director, a producer was like, nope, I'm not going to be around negativity.
Right.
And so that was like, no, because I know I won't go where I need to go. I'm not going to have a good time. Then what's the point? If I'm not having a good time, then why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Right.
But it takes you time to figure all that out, right?
I've worked with so many bad producers, directors, that now I know, because I've had all of those bad experiences.
Now that you've worked with us, how are you ever going to go back to working with anyone?
Right?
I mean,
I got to tell you, working in the theater is extremely difficult because the bar is raised so high. I don't know how to. Yeah. Because I mean, people ask me, well, why don't you go act in another theater? I'm like, listen, and I'm not, to those of you out there, I'm not putting down any other theaters, but because everyone does things their own way. But we have a standard in Theater on the Edge where we're pretending we're on off Broadway. That's kind of the standard. It's like, no, we don't do anything that would not or could not exist on off Broadway. And that's the level of detail and the level of commitment and everything else. And I find in other theaters, I just, especially community theaters, they're set to such a fast turnaround.
Yeah.
Because they have to do so many shows a year. And so you have minimal rehearsal. You're putting up a show for a minimum, 12 performances, 10 performances, like short runs, and then you're done. And I don't get the same satisfaction out of that.
Yeah.
Quality.
Which is difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. It does give you something to think about as we're having this same conversation. Sometimes you come off of a project where everything's firing on all cylinders. You're having a great experience and all of the things. And so when you're done, you say to yourself, well, I don't want to work on anything if it's not going to be this experience.
Right.
And you have to be careful with that too, right? Because it goes back to what you were saying. If you're not doing something,
right,
then you're not doing anything. And we got to be careful. I mean, when we came off of that, we're riding a high.
Yeah.
And the next thing that I did was not at the same level, but if I didn't do that thing, I wouldn't have been doing anything, right? And so I think, don't let yourself get into sometimes when we have to be careful as actors, right? We get into a place where, oh, well, I did that and I'm here. We just got to always, remain humble and, have a sense of humility and be like, if there's another project and you don't have anything you're working on, work on the project.
Yeah. Go happily.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's go. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Something, right? Work on something, which is why when we did the Meisner 4 class, it was like, because in addition to directing all of the different, I had this thought of like, I'd like to get back on stage.
Yeah.
And so that was what that thought was. It's like, I want to act in something. And this seems like a nice place to do it.
Right.
Which was crazy for me, just seeing how hard you work, you and your wife. And during this show, you're running, I don't know, it was like, how many shows total? I don't even remember.
There were 9
but
total.
I doubled it up because we had 2 different days.
Mm-hmm.
And before it starts or something like that, you're like, I want to jump on there. And I'm thinking, I don't know how a human being can put that much responsibility on one's shoulders and, all these moving parts. And then I step back and I'm like, but he's Marco. Of course he does. Like, he's an actor also at heart, so there's a part of you that I'm like, oh yeah. How it was just amazing.
I love acting. I have to find the time. Like because obviously it's a big commitment, especially in theater.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, where do I pull from? Do I pull from teaching? Do I pull from the university? Like, where do I pull from? I got to pull from something.
Right.
Yeah.
Do I pull more from spending time with my kids? Which
right.
It's like, no, that's enough. I need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so when that opportunity came around, then I was like, oh, well, I'm already here anyway.
Yeah.
I'm working on all these other productions. And why don't I just grab Sam and we do something simple? And
It was beautiful.
It was awesome.
But it's just amazing that, like you want to be working on something basically. And this opportunity came up and go figure. And, so even for someone like you, it's like, here it is. I'm going to do something. I'm not doing much now in regards to acting. And you've been in several shows and all that stuff. And that makes total sense. I was happy to see it.
I'm a big believer too, when you get to a certain level in your art, which like all of you are at, that of doing your own project, of getting to the point of saying, okay, I no longer want to wait for a project, whether it's a film or whether it's a play or anything else, of saying, okay, what if we did it ourselves? What if we put together a play and just put it up? I remember we had a student who it was Crystal, who wanted to direct. And so in her directing, she's like, well, how do what do I do? I'm like, well, just take a couple of short plays, put them together and just put them up anywhere. You can put them up at your house. It doesn't matter. And she did. She converted she lived in an apartment, and she had her living room of the apartment. She made the main stage. It was only 15 of us in the audience, but still it was cool. And the bedrooms were the green rooms. And then it was one short play came out, and then they went back to the green room, and then the other one did it. It was so nice, and it was right there in her house.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a way that we can actually work on stuff. Like you can just, it's like she didn't need a theater, an actual theater space. She didn't need really anything.
Yeah.
It was like, you know what? I'm just going to work on being a director. And it was very successful.
Yeah.
And so I think when you get to that point, you know, Theater on the Edge is I say founded on, but the mentor theater for Theater on the Edge is the Steppenwolf Theater Company in Chicago. And Steppenwolf was developed by a group of actors that came together and said, okay, what are we doing? Let's work on stuff.
Yeah.
And we get together and we work on stuff. And it's like, you know what? Let's put together a play and put it up for people to watch. That's all it was, which put the focus on the performance and not really anything else. And then it slowly became the Steppenwolf Theater Company, which is one of the biggest we have in the nation, or definitely one of the most acclaimed we have. And it was just because actors came together and was working on something on their own.
And focused on it being an actor's actor, a director's actor. Like it was about that, basically.
Yeah,
it
about the
wasn't
performance,
focused
yeah.
about how many people can we bring in and fill out the house. And
no, they were doing it out of a
just-
basement, out of, you know, it was like,
Yeah.
well, what do we have?
Exploring, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we have a church basement we can put it in. Great, let's do that.
Yeah.
And so
And was their first one just it was Say Goodnight Gracie? Was it or
so
second?
that wasn't their
Just
first. That was the one that put them on the map.
Okay.
That was the one that they did or very early on that got recognition that then they were asked to then restage it in off Broadway somewhere.
Yeah,
somewhere. It was, but it was restaged that then put the light on them that kind of started everything. Was Say Goodnight Gracie. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's an awesome point too. If you really don't like what's out there, then
Absolutely.
come up with something.
And it's much harder to, I know it's hard to do film, which is why I always say to like even filmmakers, I'm like, everyone's thinking of a feature film, like, you know, a long, like, I want to do an 1.5-hour film. Oh my God, no, do a 5-minute film.
Yeah.
Do something. Just,
Do
and even as
something.
actors, like work on monologues, work on plays, or just work on a scene from a play. Just get together with other actors and just work on it.
Yeah.
And I think the more you do that, the more you can still keep working on something, cultivating. And as an actor, working on the director side of you. Because that's what they did in Steppenwolf. Of course, back, you know, it was Gary Sinise and Malkovich.
I see.
I think Laurie Metcalf.
Laurie
Yes.
Metcalf
part of it as well.
was there, right? So they had this like very strong group of who are now, you know, very well-known actors, but back then they weren't. And I remember reading the biography of it and saying that no one really wanted to direct, so Malkovich would just direct everything. Because no one else wanted to direct. They were
Right.
so afraid of directing.
Yeah.
That can you imagine Malkovich?
I know, as
directing you?
intense as
Yeah.
I can only
Could
imagine.
you-
Go figure.
Yeah.
But I think you just have to have this one experience after the next in order to grow, to try things. It's all about freedom as an actor. I mean, right? Meaning the
Finding
freedom
that.
of just being able to step up and try something. It's like, okay, today I'm a chicken and just start clucking like a chicken. It's, but without the mental hesitancy that restricts us from playing.
Yes.
And the more we work on things, the more we can just step in and play.
Who's the actor that played the chicken in Moana?
Oh, that's Alan Tudyk.
Yeah, Alan Tudyk, sorry. Words. And there's that clip of him going like, and then he turns the camera and realizes, I went to Juilliard.
I love it.
So yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
That's
So good.
incredible. And you did say earlier, Marco, you said, and Faheem, you're like, write it down. It's so good. You said the great actors never got good without playing some bad roles.
Yes.
So even just failing, not fail, whatever you want to call it, but just doing something. It's better than doing nothing, I guess, in this.
Yeah.
Well, we don't,
realm.
we don't necessarily hear of the bad roles because
Right.
those were the ones that they were starting. We don't see a famous actor's student films that they did
Yeah.
or their community theater shows. I mean, we don't have any of that access. So as an audience member, we're only introduced to their Hollywood roles.
And
or
that's
their bigger
interesting
things.
because now we do have access to that. So everything is on social media if people want to post and such. So that's another little tidbit of like, oh yeah, which is in the back of my mind saying I really can't, I won't say hide from this, but it's whatever you're doing is right away interjected with your name if you pilot in, the computer system. So that I think puts also a little bit of, I don't want to say added pressure, but a new form of a generation that's all involved with technology and instant things that you can get. And you're like, oh man. Right. But then there's that side process. I'm like, okay, well, if this is how the world has become, I have to just be comfortable with the uncomfortable, or, just be proud of, no matter what, the execution that I did. It's just part of now the thread of who I am, and that everybody can see, because I remember listening to something a long time ago, and it was talked about Christina Aguilera, and her first demo was released, and she was suing whoever it was that was doing it because it wasn't the quality that she now is known, whatever she's been known for. But so I think that has been something that I've struggled with, and I got over that small hump, but I did for a long time. I was like, okay, this is going to be released. It's a student film. It's, so that kind of maybe puts a little fear in one's.
Well, that's an interesting and scary reality, in that the Hollywood actors of tomorrow have to be comfortable with the fact that their early work is going to be readily available, and you don't see Caprio's or De Niro's or Denzel Washington's early student film work if they did that.
And they did. They did that. Yeah.
Because it's not.
You'll see their audition films or whatever, which is beautiful, but not how.
But the thing we have to remember, because there is a lot of concern. I get that question quite a bit. Is I don't want to do something that's bad quality because then people are going to see it and it's going to pull me back as an actor. I'm like, nobody's watching it. Yeah. If it's bad, nobody cares. And unless you're already a celebrity, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Right.
Nobody's looking at you as an actor in something bad that you did and saying, oh my God, let me write their name down because I want to make sure I never support them.
Sure, right. And you're right.
We want to go to DiCaprio's or Denzel's early films to see where did they start with. And even if it's the worst thing in the world, we're going to be like, oh my God, look how far they've grown.
And you still give it to the man in the, you give the accolade or whatever, the respect to the person who is doing it, no matter what.
Yeah.
I was just watching something else and it would just showed this, it's a beautiful poem or whatever, but it talks about no matter what, that person who put themselves out there is the one that has, the confidence. They walked into that unknownness. But the critics and such, whoever that never did it, then it's not you understand what I'm saying? It's not about that. It's about the person just going ahead, and you're right, because we forgive lovingly these people that we've grown up with watching. We don't care what their film was, in 30 years ago or whatever it was, if it was bad or not bad. It's just, we take it, I don't know, it's different.
I did have an interesting conversation about IMDb credits recently, sort of in the same vein, where it is now also easier to get things up on IMDb. And if you do 30 or 40 poor quality independent student films, do you, your IMDb is easily accessible. Do you, if a casting director goes and looks at that, and now are you the actor who just works in bad projects? Is that something we have to worry about? I don't know.
I feel like I know what you're going to say, but I'd love to hear what your thoughts are, Marco.
Okay. Right. Yeah. So you think you know what I'm going to say?
I think I do.
No, casting directors don't care. They're looking at you're working. They know, casting directors know that the quality of the film is not in the actor's hands. And so if it's a bad film, it's not on you. But what they do like is the fact that, wow, look how much you are working on your own without waiting for someone else to give you an opportunity.
That's incredible.
And so it's very impressive.
Yes.
And it's interesting. The same thing when I was talking to my friend Phil, who does the voiceover. And he's like, well, when you look at credits, what do you look for? Do you look for names or quality? He's like, nope, I look for the number. He's like, I want to go to the IMDb and see that you have over 200 credits. That says that you have the capability of working with me as a voiceover actor. 200 credits.
I love
Holy
that.
Shit. But voiceover actors have tons and tons and tons. And I went down, you go and you look at whomever,
Mhm.
right? And you start looking through, and I don't know any of these names.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them are animation or
Sure.
video games or things that are just out of my realm, I guess. But it's I don't know what that, but oh my God, you look at someone with 500 credits,
Mhm.
and he said that's impressive. It shows that you have enough experience working on something where I don't have to then teach you or don't have to educate you on it.
It's amazing what, through the perspective or the lens of someone that is on the inside, we're as actors, especially starting off, you feel such like an outsider, and
Yeah.
you just, all you want to do is, I guess, get the role or be liked. And you just realize as the journey continues on that it's not about that. And it's such a learning lesson, because what we think from the beginning actor is that we have no idea what you guys are what people are looking for. And I think that frees up a lot of people that are listening, and just, gives them responsibility for themselves. They're like, okay, I can, even releases them, I can play more, I can be free, I can make mistakes, but as long as I keep doing it, at the end of it, you'll always be, I think, more well-rounded, because people are actually looking for that. When we think they're looking for, was she the next, I don't know, Halle Berry, whatever it is, that what's not about that. And it's endearing, and it's refreshing.
Yeah, I think people generally put some high expectations out there for ourselves that everything has to be
Perfect.
a certain
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
And I think about, give it a visual. Lawrence Fishburne, amazing actor. We've seen him do theater. We've seen him on film.
Mm-hmm.
You remember Lawrence Fishburne as a cowboy on Pee Wee Herman?
Oh,
No, I didn't know he was on there.
Yeah, but when you think back to, and I'm not saying it wasn't it was Pee Wee Herman, right? It was a kids show at the time.
Yeah.
But he was this, awkward cowboy person. When you really stop and you look at the greats, you'll find, if you really go looking, you're gonna find some of these roles that they played in soap opera and this, and
Kevin Bacon came from the soap operas.
Right.
Morgan Freeman was on the Electric Company.
right. So they all you gotta start somewhere.
Yeah.
Flo
right?
was on Flo or whatever. Flo, the commercial. She started on those national commercials. So she was doing big things before that, anyways. But then movies you see her in and all that stuff.
Yeah, and so give yourself enough credit for just showing up. You talk about it.
And I can tell you, casting directors are not looking at the IMDb, going down to the bottom, and then saying, "Let me pull up this and see what the acting is."
Just for
I mean, they're
laugh.
going to go to your demo reels, if they want to see clips of you, or they're going to go to the things that are more well known, better put together. But the number of IMDb credits, and it's a game, because look, is it legitimate? I don't know. Because some of the ways to get IMDb credits is not as legitimate, quote unquote, as others. I mean, some people are really doing good work, quality work, feature film in festivals, things like that. And then others are just student films that, because you're associated with different universities, you can get it in IMDb. So I don't know, but there is still, it's the first place people in the industry go. They look at your IMDb and just say, okay, how long have you been working? How many projects have you done?
I literally went to delete or pause my IMDb account, right? Because I'm thinking, these are so horrible. These, whatever it is that I'm involved with. And I go down the rabbit hole. And anyways, it's like, if you delete it, it's deleted forever. And I was like, I don't know if I want to delete it forever.
No.
I just want to, but it's a learning lesson. I didn't even know, but interesting.
I didn't know I
Very
had an
interesting.
IMDb account. I guess a
I
student
did
film
put it
that I had done, there I was. I was like, huh.
Yeah.
Every now and then I'll go back on just to see, do I have any more credits? I don't
Yeah, right.
Every now and then a credit comes back on.
I remember you telling us, and so Rob Moss, the other teacher here at Truthful, we're talking about resumes, and it's a very big, I don't know, Meisner 2 or something like that. And you'll get to a point, what should we put on our resume? And it's you'll get to a point where you'll actually have to take away.
Yeah, take
I was like, this is never going to happen. This is going to take forever. But not too long ago, I was actually in that zone where I was trying to update my resume. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm deleting things.
Yeah.
It's a process, but I just saw it I saw it as something that was impossible to do. See the mountain, you're like, oh my God. But very interesting. Very, very interesting.
Yeah.
So I would say, though, I mean, I know a lot of actors get involved with acting for film because that's what initially allures us in, I think, is, we're watching film, we're watching television, and it's like, oh, I want to do that. And so we think, oh, I want to go to school to learn how to be a film actor. When in reality, there's no such thing as acting for film. It's now, I say there's no such thing. Yes. Can you look up acting for film and find a studio anywhere around the world? You'll find one that's teaching it. But the true acting comes from theater. And when I say theater, it's not acting is acting is acting. And we have to learn a full process of acting. And theater trains us how to do everything we need that then we adapt and bring to film. Because all acting is live acting.
Mm-hmm.
Even film acting, we're acting live. It's still like a piece of like this theater production that they're simply recording that they're going to do something with later.
Yeah.
So we have to learn that. So I would say, if anything, and if you have the availability to do more theater, community theater, church theater, anything.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It also brings up another good point here as you're talking about it. As we say, should we be auditioning for projects? Going to school, training. If you have the opportunity, you could go audition for a whole bunch of student films, or if you have the opportunity to gain some training. When we were taking Meisner 1, it was a well-known in Meisner 1, Meisner 2, the at least guidance that was given is you shouldn't be auditioning. You should be focusing on the training. And I think that's a good place. If you don't know where to start, if we're really starting from ground, start with the training.
Yes.
Find a way to get some training wherever that is. If you're here, in the Orlando space, come to Truthful Acting. If you're somewhere, try to find something that gets you in that direction before just going to audition for a whole bunch of stuff. I think that will set you up for more success. Again, I don't know that anyone can tell you when or when not to start acting. I think you've got to be able to make that determination.
Sure.
But definitely start with some guidance and training.
Well, it's a good point because you need. Yeah, and I guess I skipped over that, right? The fact that the assumption I had is you're working on these things as you're training.
Right.
But it's a good point that, sometimes people might hear that and say, oh, let me go act before I train. It's like, no, train.
Yes.
Yeah.
The training is the most important thing. And then you apply the training to different projects.
Right. Yep.
What I'm getting hip to or more comfortable with now that I didn't have before, and it took 3 semesters for me personally, was to get comfortable in front of the camera. So how I kind of think of the camera now is just like a dance partner or another actor in the scene with you. And before I thought, really, it caused me so much physical quivering, anxiety, stress, sweat. Oh my gosh. And you also have to be just already ready to be trained enough, in the acting process so that you could meet the camera. You're going to figure out how you are in front of it, with it, how you dance with this thing, how you can befriend it. And eventually it falls, just like anything else, if you consistently do it, it becomes like, okay, there it is. Now it's disappeared from you. Or now I know where my lighting is. Now I know where my mark is. And you do it with confidence. But it was something that I needed training, just like with acting, but now with the camera aspect to it.
Yeah.
And how you teach it, Marco, is just it's so loving and comfortable and safe. Very safe that I can't imagine it. I'm glad I experienced it here and not on set when I wasn't prepped for camera, because this thing rolling towards me, this alien, with a light and whatever. And it's just you start, oh my God, it's coming. And automatically I'm out of my life. I'm out of the life. But it was, it's important to train.
Nothing like a record button being pushed to make you forget how to act completely.
Isn't it crazy? Yeah.
I said, drink the water. Why? How are you not drinking the water? I don't know how.
Oh, man.
Immediately puts us back in our head.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what we train so hard to do in the theater, in acting, to not be. And so then this is then introduced to you. And you're like, okay, how do I get comfortable with this or notice where I remember some student who was a grown man and he was saying something like, how does my face stop twitching or whatever it was? And I think it wasn't even with the camera. He actually was just on Meisner 1 or 2. And you were just like, in time,
That's
in
it.
time.
Right. Yeah. In time. It's just doing it over and over and over. And eventually the camera becomes your friend.
And it becomes, welcomed friend.
Yeah.
There's some friends I don't want to see.
But we,
Just kidding. Just kidding.
I think we have to go through those early stages of the camera where we're intimidated by it, or we're worried that the camera's judging us in some way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, camera's your friend.
Camera's your friend. Camera friend.
The camera
Camera
loves
friend.
you.
What were you going to say, Josh?
Ease is the name of the game.
Ease. Ooh.
Yeah.
I think in stage and film,
Yeah.
you have to get to the point where there's just and honestly, that's probably a whole podcast episode in of itself.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Ease. And because that is really one of the most important things, I think, is being able to just relax. And because that's how else can you be unless you're relaxed, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Right.
because if you're not relaxed, you're trying to manipulate the moment.
You make it look effortless, or the greats. That's what they're so
Right.
eased in what they do.
It's so nonchalant almost in a way. Even with heavy, intense emotional scenes, there's still
Right.
a ease and relaxedness to it that
Yeah.
it's so incredibly hard to get to, I think.
But the training.
Well,
takes you
that's the amazing thing. It's all of our training, years and years and years of the training really is leading us to that point of just being able to just relax.
Mhm.
And it's an interesting thing because like you were saying, even in the intense scenes, the character, meaning us in this life, may be tense. Us in this life, we might be emotional or dealing with stuff, have urgency. Everything's in the extreme. But us, the actor, needs to be at ease.
Mhm.
We can't be forcing it. We can't be. And that's a really good point. That's really what we're trying to get to.
It's almost like you, the actor, need to stop having a stake in what's happening.
Yeah. Ooh, I like
Mm.
that.
The character has
That's good.
stakes. The character has stakes. The character has it's
Mhm.
life or death. It's whatever it's happening. But you,
Mhm.
the actor, needs to let go. And we talk about this all the time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You just need to stop having stakes. Like, am I going to get this job? Am I going to do
Yeah.
well? It's about making the offer and being okay with whatever
Yeah.
happens.
Love that.
Love
Yeah.
it.
That was a gem that we just dropped.
Yeah.
Josh,
So
the
very
gem.
nice,
the
Josh.
gem.
I have a few of them.
It's a good time to pull it out because we are at the end.
We are. That was fast.
Didn't it go fast?
It did.
It went by quick today, but
You're having a good time.
because
Yeah.
we're in good company.
That's
That's
right.
it. Oh,
So thank you both for being here.
yeah. Thanks
Thank
for
you
having
so
us.
much.
Appreciate it. Faheem, you'll be going back to New York soon.
Yeah. Going back in a week.
Yeah.
Then, yeah. Getting back into school and continuing the training. Continuing the journey.
So once you're back here again after that, we'll have to have you back on and
Yeah.
we'll talk about
Talk about the experience.
all of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Can't wait. Can't wait.
I'm so happy for you. I wish I could just be here.
You can come. You can come.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, I need to. It's time for us now to go visit you.
Mhm.
Hey,
Came down here for a couple.
New York,
might
New
take
York
a-
is ready for you
Oh.
at
I'm
all
gonna go pack my
times.
overnight bag.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's wide awake. I promise.
Well, very nice. Nat,
Yeah.
do you have anything else before we sign off for this episode?
And it was a joy, a surprise, Faheem being here. I knew Josh was going to be. This is just lovely. And thank you, Marco. Yeah.
Oh,
Wonderful
Yes, thank
time.
you.
Yeah, it was a good reunion.
Mini reunion.
I love reunions.
And I went to this one.
Yay!
That's awesome. That's awesome.
All right, everyone, we will be back again in a week. But until then, remember to treat yourself with kindness and reward yourself for the risks that you take.
Mhm.
We'll see you again soon.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. If you'd like to learn more about our studio and what we do, you can find us online at truthfulacting.com. And check out truthfulactingonline.com for our Learn at Home at Your Own Pace courses.
So what I told you was true, from a certain point of view.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
what you're trying to do.
I'm trying to free your mind, but I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it.